Public scrutiny is an inevitable part of life for those in the political spotlight, whether they are elected officials or family members of prominent figures. U.S. Representative Jasmine CrockettBarron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump, represent two starkly different approaches to handling criticism and media pressure. Crockett, a first-term congresswoman, has embraced a bold, confrontational style, leveraging her platform on X to deliver sharp retorts and engage directly with critics, including Trump himself and MAGA-aligned figures like comedian Terrence K. Williams. In contrast, Barron Trump, a private individual and college freshman, maintains a near-total silence, avoiding social media and public statements even amidst false rumors, such as the debunked claim of his rejection from Harvard. This analysis explores their strategies, drawing from Crockett's vocal presence and Barron's reticence, to understand how they navigate the challenges of public life in an era of intense media scrutiny. Jasmine Crockett. Defiance and direct engagement background and rise to prominence. Jasmine Crockett, born in 1981, represents Texas' 30th Congressional District, having assumed office in January 2023. A former criminal defense attorney, Crockett has quickly established herself as a rising star in the Democratic Party, known for her fiery rhetoric and unapologetic criticism of political opponents, particularly former President Donald Trump and his allies. Her outspoken nature has made her a frequent target of conservative criticism, but it has also amplified her visibility, with over 1 million followers on X by mid-2025. Crockett's approach to public scrutiny is characterized by direct engagement, often using humor, defiance, and sharp-witted responses to counter attacks and assert her narrative, responding to Trump's low IQ insult. One of the most prominent examples of Crockett's handling of public scrutiny came in May 2025, when former President Donald Trump, during an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, called her a low IQ person and mocked the idea of her being a future leader of the Democratic Party. Trump stated, "They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said she's the future of the party." I said, "You have to be kidding." This was not the first time Trump targeted Crockett. In March 2025, he referred to her as a low-life and very low IQ person. Crockett's response was swift and unapologetic. On May 4, 2025, she posted on X, "For you to be in charge of the whole country, you sure do have my name in your mouth a lot. Every time you say my name, you're reminding the world that you're terrified of smart, bold black women telling the truth and holding you accountable. So keep talking." This post garnered over 3 million views and nearly 8,000 responses, reflecting both support and vitriolic backlash from MAGA supporters, who used derogatory terms like ghetto Barbie and village idiot. Crockett's retort framed Trump's insult as a sign of his insecurity, positioning herself as a fearless advocate for truth and accountability. Her appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live in April 2025 further showcased her willingness to confront Trump head-on. When Kimmel raised Trump's low IQ comments, Crockett expressed readiness to take a public IQ test against him, stating, "It says a lot when you're supposed to be the leader of the free world, and you're worried about a sophomore in the House." This bold challenge not only deflected Trump's insult but also turned the narrative back on him, questioning his focus on a relatively new congresswoman. Feuds with MAGA figures, Terrence K. Williams and others. Crockett's confrontational style extends to her interactions with MAGA-aligned figures, such as comedian Terrence K. Williams. In April 2025, Williams posted a video on X titled, "Who Wore It Best, Me or Jasmine Crockett?" impersonating her in a manner that drew significant backlash for perpetuating stereotypes. Williams defended himself, stating, "Stop saying I'm degrading black women when I do impersonations of Jasmine Crockett. I'm a comedian." Crockett did not publicly respond to Williams, but her silence in this instance contrasts with her vocal responses to other critics, suggesting a strategic choice to ignore certain provocations while engaging others that carry greater political weight. Crockett has also clashed with Republican colleagues, such as Representatives Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene. In January 2025, during a House Oversight Committee meeting, Mace threatened to "take it outside" after Crockett referred to her as "child." Crockett's feud with Green escalated when she called Green dumb and a lowlife on Jimmy Kimmel Live in April 2025. These exchanges highlight Crockett's willingness to match or escalate the rhetoric of her opponents, using humor and directness to maintain her visibility and assert her perspective. Leveraging X as a platform. Crockett's active presence on X is central to her strategy for handling public scrutiny. With over 1 million followers, she uses the platform to respond to critics, amplify her message, and connect with supporters. Her posts often combine sharp wit with pointed political commentary, as seen in her response to Trump's insults and her criticism of Elon Musk, whom she told to when asked what she would say to him. This bluntness resonates with her base but also invites backlash, as evidenced by the racist and sexist comments from MAGA trolls following her Trump retort. Crockett's use of X allows her to control her narrative, bypassing traditional media filters. For example, after facing criticism for calling Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Governor Hot Wheels, a comment she claimed referred to his migrant busing policies, not his disability. She used X to clarify her intent and counter accusations of insensitivity, writing, "I wasn't thinking about the governor's condition, I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants." While this explanation did not fully quell the controversy, it demonstrated her proactive approach to addressing criticism. Strengths and risks of Crockett's approach. Crockett's defiant style has several strengths. First, it amplifies her visibility, making her a prominent voice in the Democratic Party despite being a first-term congresswoman. Her willingness to confront powerful figures like Trump and Musk positions her as a fearless advocate, particularly for marginalized communities. Second, her direct engagement on X allows her to shape the narrative around her controversies, often turning attacks into opportunities to highlight her resilience and authenticity. Supporters like former DNC member Kari Pennebaker have praised her, stating, "Trump can't stop crowing about Rep. Jasmine because fearless black women torch his paper-thin ego." However, her approach carries risks. Her provocative rhetoric, such as the "Governor Hot Wheels" comment or her call for Musk to be taken down, has drawn accusations of unprofessionalism and incitement. These controversies can alienate moderate voters and provide fodder for Republican critics, as seen when Representative Randy Weber threatened to censure her. Additionally, her high-profile feuds invite intense backlash, including racist and sexist attacks, which she has cited as contributing to death threats and security concerns. Despite these risks, Crockett's strategy appears calculated to maintain her relevance and influence, even at the cost of polarization. Barron Trump, silence as a strategy. Background and public profile. Barron Trump, born in 2006, is the youngest child of former President Donald Trump and Melania Trump. Unlike his siblings, who have embraced public roles in their father's political and business ventures, Barron has maintained an exceptionally low profile. As a freshman at New York University in 2025, he has largely avoided the media spotlight, with no verified social media presence and minimal public appearances beyond family events, such as his father's inauguration in January 2025. This reticence shapes his approach to public scrutiny, which is characterized by silence and disengagement, even in the face of rumors and media speculation. The false Harvard rejection claim. One notable instance of public scrutiny involving Barron Trump was the false claim in 2025 that he had been rejected from Harvard University. This rumor, which circulated on social media and was amplified by certain outlets, lacked any credible evidence and was quickly debunked. Unlike Crockett, who would likely have responded directly to such a claim, Barron remained silent, allowing the rumor to fade without his intervention. This aligns with his broader strategy of avoiding public engagement, which contrasts sharply with the active responses of other Trump family members to similar rumors. The AI-generated debate rumor. Another significant example of scrutiny Barron faced was the false claim in May 2025 that he had debated Representative Jasmine Crockett on live television. AI-generated YouTube videos, such as one titled, "Barron Trump Mocked Jasmine Crockett, She Took the Mic and Ended Him," garnered hundreds of thousands of views, falsely alleging a verbal showdown between the two. Reputable media outlets did not cover the alleged event, and Snopes confirmed its falsehood. Barron's response, or lack thereof. was consistent with his approach: complete silence. He did not issue statements, post on social media, or engage with the rumor in any way. This silence allowed the false narrative to gain traction briefly, with some YouTube comments indicating that viewers believed the videos were real. However, the lack of corroboration from credible sources eventually diminished the rumor's impact, demonstrating the effectiveness of Barron's strategy in letting misinformation die out naturally. Strengths and risks of Barron's approach. Barron's silence has several advantages. First, it preserves his privacy, a priority emphasized by his mother, Melania Trump, who has historically shielded him from public attention. By avoiding social media and public statements, Barron minimizes his exposure to the vitriol and scrutiny that accompany public life, particularly for someone associated with a polarizing figure like Donald Trump. Second, his silence prevents him from amplifying false narratives, as responding to rumors could draw more attention to them. The Harvard Rejection and Crockett debate rumors both faded relatively quickly, partly because Barron's lack of engagement provided no fuel for the controversy. However, this approach has limitations. Silence can allow misinformation to spread unchecked in the short term, potentially shaping public perceptions in ways that are difficult to correct later. For example, the AI-generated debate videos gained significant viewership before being debunked, and some viewers may have retained false impressions of Barron's involvement. Additionally, his lack of a public presence means he has no direct platform to counter narratives or define his identity, leaving him vulnerable to being defined by others, including detractors and sensationalist media. Comparative analysis: Crockett vs. Barron. Contrasting philosophies. Crockett and Barron represent opposite ends of the spectrum in handling public scrutiny. Crockett's approach is proactive and confrontational, rooted in her role as a public official and her identity as a vocal advocate. She uses X to engage directly with critics, turning insults into opportunities to assert her strength and authenticity. Her response to Trump's low IQ comment exemplifies this, as she reframed his attack as evidence of her influence and his insecurity. Her feuds with figures like Williams and Green further demonstrate her willingness to match or escalate rhetoric, maintaining her visibility and relevance. Barron, by contrast, employs a strategy of complete disengagement. His silence reflects a deliberate choice to remain outside the public fray, likely influenced by his age, private status, and family dynamics. While Crockett thrives on confrontation, Barron avoids it entirely, relying on the passage of time and the lack of credible evidence to dispel rumors like the Harvard rejection or the Crockett debate. This contrast highlights their differing roles: Crockett as a public figure with a political agenda, and Barron as a private individual navigating the fallout of his family's prominence. Impact of social media presence. Social media is a critical factor in their approaches. Crockett's active presence on X allows her to respond to scrutiny in real time, shape narratives, and connect with supporters. Her posts, such as the one responding to Trump's insult, generate significant engagement, amplifying her voice but also exposing her to backlash. This dynamic reflects the double-edged nature of social media. It provides a platform for self-defense but also invites intense criticism, including racist and sexist attacks. Barron's lack of social media presence eliminates these risks but also limits his ability to control his narrative. Without a platform, he relies on external actors, such as fact-checkers like Snopes or the absence of mainstream media coverage, to counter false claims. This approach preserves his privacy but leaves him passive in the face of public scrutiny, potentially allowing rumors to linger longer than they might if he engaged directly. Contextual factors. Crockett's and Barron's approaches are shaped by their contexts. As a congresswoman, Crockett is expected to engage publicly, and her outspokenness aligns with her role as a representative advocating for her constituents. Her identity as a black woman in politics adds another layer, as she often frames criticism, particularly from Trump, as rooted in fear of smart, bold black women. This narrative resonates with her base and positions her as a defender of marginalized groups, but it also fuels polarization. Barron's context as a private citizen and the son of a polarizing figure necessitates a different strategy. His silence aligns with the Trump family's efforts to shield him from the media, a priority Melania Trump has emphasized throughout his childhood. At 19, Barron is also at a different life stage, focused on his studies at NYU rather than public life, which reduces the expectation for him to respond to scrutiny, effectiveness and long-term implications. Crockett's approach is effective in maintaining her relevance and energizing her base, but it risks entrenching divisions and inviting ongoing attacks. Her willingness to confront critics head-on has made her a polarizing figure, admired by supporters but vilified by opponents. The death threats she has cited as a consequence of her rhetoric underscore the personal cost of her strategy. Barron's silence is effective in preserving his privacy and minimizing personal exposure, but it leaves him vulnerable to being defined by others. As he matures and potentially takes on a more public role, his lack of engagement may limit his ability to shape his public image. However, in the short term, his strategy has allowed him to avoid the controversies that engulf other Trump family members. Broader implications for public figures. Contrasting approaches of Crockett and Barron highlight broader themes in how public figures navigate scrutiny in the digital age. Crockett's engagement reflects a trend among politicians to use social media as a tool for direct communication, bypassing traditional media to control their narrative. This approach can amplify influence but also invites intense backlash, particularly for women and minorities who face disproportionate abuse online. Barron's silence, while less common among public figures, underscores the power of disengagement in an era of misinformation, where responding to false claims can sometimes amplify them. The rise of AI-generated content, as seen in the false Crockett-Barron debate videos, adds a new layer of complexity. Public figures must now contend with fabricated narratives that can spread rapidly, requiring strategic decisions about whether to engage or ignore such claims. Crockett's proactive approach and Barron's silence represent two viable strategies, each with trade-offs depending on the individual's goals and context. Conclusion. Jasmine Crockett and Barron Trump exemplify two distinct approaches to handling public scrutiny. Crockett's defiant, vocal responses, amplified through her X presence, allow her to confront critics like Trump and Williams directly, turning attacks into opportunities to assert her identity and influence. Barron's silence, facilitated by his lack of social media presence, preserves his privacy and minimizes engagement with false rumors, such as the Harvard rejection or Crockett debate claims. While Crockett's strategy thrives on visibility and confrontation, Barron's relies on disengagement and time to dispel misinformation. Both approaches reflect their unique roles, contexts, and priorities, offering insights into the challenges of navigating public life in a polarized, media-saturated era.